Well, hello and welcome to the Make It Count podcast. Today's guest is someone I deeply respect, not just for what she's built, but for how she's built it. Michelle Bryan is a real estate investor and capital raiser who understands something that most people never slow down enough to learn. Money moves where trust lives. Alongside her fiance, Vin Ochoa, she's helped fund and scale real deals by leading with clarity, discipline, and responsibility, not noise. She's the co founder of the Amigos Fund and Amigos Club, built on the belief that community, education, and aligned capital create better outcomes for everyone involved. Michelle doesn't chase attention, she builds credibility. And because of that, people listen and the capital follows. This conversation gives you a window into how she actually thinks about money, responsibility, and the people on the other side of every decision. I'm grateful to give her the space today, and I'm glad you're here for it as well. So help me welcome Michelle to the stage.
Hi.
Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We are so glad to have you. You have been quietly moving and shaking things all around when it comes to real estate. But for those people who don't know you yet, if you could tell the world a little bit about Michelle.
Yes, absolutely. So buy and hold investor by trade. And so that is kind of how we started. I started about 5 years ago, but it really prior to that, I've been an entrepreneur. And on this journey coming into this, I really said, I really want to make an impact in the next chapter of my life. And so that is how real estate investing came about. My first business partner being my mother. So you'll hear a little bit about that. And really just knowing that we can make money, but why not make money and make it matter and make it with a purpose? And so that has been the full mission in these last amazing 5 years that we've been doing this.
I love that. Now, your website, My Story Michelle, what's sort of the premise behind? Because that definitely leads to a journey.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your story.
So my story is one of the biggest things is many years ago, I was so afraid to get on social media. I said, well, who am I to be an expert in anything? Why am I going to get on social media to really talk about my story? Who's going to listen? Who cares? And then what I realized, there was someone that came to me and says, Michelle, you're being selfish. I said,
Oh,
excuse me, I'm not a selfish person. Well, you're being selfish by not telling your story. And if you cannot, if you don't go out there and tell what you've been through, you may not be able to help as many people as you want. So I always lead with, it is my story and my story to tell, and everyone has a unique story.
yeah.
And so that is the premises of my story, Michelle. So.
Yeah. That's great. Now, what part of your journey shaped the way you lead and make decisions today, but you
Yeah.
don't usually get to talk about?
Yeah. Well, if you ask my mom, she'd say what since I was younger. I think I was an entrepreneur by heart, not knowing. At 15 years old, even before that, I remember uh, coming to the table, the dinner table, and say, "Mom, I want to get emancipated. I want to go live on my own." Like I just, here's my. I should have been an attorney. Here's the reason why, and this is the parameters, and this is what I'm going to give you, and this is the offering. 15 years old, not knowing what I was talking about, but and so I talked to her now and I said, why did you allow, like, just let me, she ended up getting me an apartment. So I graduated high school 2 years early, graduated at 16. And then I had an apartment. I thought I was just a big girl. I was literally half a mile down the street. Mom was always checking on me. But going forward, I said, why did you allow me to do that? She said, if I wasn't going to let you do it, you were going to do it anyway. And I rather know that I was still able to protect you and you were, going to become a big adult and stuff. So now I think about it. I'm like, I wish I still want to be a young adult now that we're in this big world. But leadership came from there. I went in, I started working at the age of 15. I had a job offer at 14. We were going into a tuxedo store for my quinceañera is what we call it, but sweet, so the 15. And they offered me a job. Day after my birthday, I started. And I saw myself in corporate America at that time. Within 6 to 8 months, always just, I want to get into that next step. What's there for more? What's there for more? And then I left Texas And I moved to Miami, Florida, and that's when I really started my entrepreneurial journey in my adult life.
Yeah.
But always been a leader, and always wanting to just, you know, take that chance on me. Even though sometimes it's scary,
Yeah.
just taking that chance on me is always what I've always done. So,
Well, so you mentioned the tuxedo store is kind of how you got into corporate America. Now you landed in Miami.
mhm.
What was the moment that made you decide, you know what, it's not corporate America, it's being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So good question. Here when I was in San Antonio, Texas, where I reside now, I've come back to home. It was within 6 to 8 months, I was always climbing the ladder. And at 18 years old, I was managing a call center, and they were retired, some semi-retired from AT&T and T and all these other big things. So it was difficult giving them their evaluation and review.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, I got into staffing and recruiting. So that's really my big background. And then I would work with small boutique staffing companies, and I would grow them to a medium to enterprise level as far as their. So didn't even know I had an operations background, but that's what I was doing. And when I moved to Miami, I started working for a large corporation, a publicly traded company. And back then, I'm kind of aging myself. It was like phone book, phone, and this is what you need to just call and dial and figure out.
Yeah.
Going into the corporate America, because I was always in small boutique, I took 3 demotions down just to be able to be part of it.
Mhm.
And they didn't want to give me the position that I felt that I deserved. So I always was just working and working. I've always been that underdog, so to speak, and continuing to do that. And so I built a $2 million brand in revenue in 1 year for this company in South Florida. And I did not know Spanish. I didn't know anybody. And at that time, I'm like, 2 million, and this is my paycheck. If
Mm.
I could just do this as a fraction of it, I can do this on my own. So,
Yes.
transitioning out of that at that time, boyfriend didn't believe in me. Nobody did. Why are you taking the risk? What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to put 6 months of reserves, and that's all I got. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to figure it out. And he's like, you shouldn't. And I remember like coming up with the names and the logos and no support. But when we landed that first contract, all of a sudden the support was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So reason why there's an ex-boyfriend, but yes. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, that's part. I didn't realize we actually have quite a bit in common in that regard. I graduated high school early,
Yeah.
and I went and
Well,
landed in leadership, didn't ask for it. And the team that I was leading at the time, I was 19, was twice my age, right?
mhm.
It's interesting how we can kind of have similar journeys.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the 6 months of reserves, and I think that's really important to kind of touch on because so many people, the people who are around you, it sounds like they had more of an employee mindset.
Oh,
Go to
100.
work, right? It's safe. A check shows up. And if we learned anything from COVID, working for someone else's company isn't safe, right? You can ultimately, they can cut you at any time.
Right.
But you saved up a reserves versus just cutting ties, right? Now, were you building alongside saving, or did you just save and then start building as well?
Yeah, so I went into what I knew, right? So most of the time when you get out of corporate America, you hear people, and I do some consulting, so that's why I hear them and they say, I'm just gonna do exactly what I was doing. But
Yeah.
I'm like, well, is it fulfilling you? We don't think about that. Now I think about that later in my journey. But at that time, I just went ahead and did a parallel. I did have some non-competes and all of that, but I did something very similar. So I was able to, and I won't ever say it was, it's just out of luck, because everything is by what it needs to be and designed for us, even though we don't even know it. And so I was able to land staffing and recruiting, but more for in the event side. So
Yes.
in South Florida, you have the boat show, you have the auto shows, you have all these big conventions that come down. And so I was able to bring in the value of, hey, I know how to go find these individuals. Well, their problem, they needed to find temporary payroll to do it. And I'm saying, okay, so I don't even have to look for for the recruitment. It's very, very seasonal. Absolutely. Let me get into that particular phase. So I went in. It wasn't building right parallel. It was like, let me just jump and I'm going to figure it out. But I was jumping in the same industry.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, it was starting at the bottom, but starting with a little bit of experience, which accelerated the process. So.
Yeah, and it wasn't starting at the bottom. It was building something right from the ground up, and you
Yeah,
had to be on the ground to start it.
there was only two other competitors in that industry that were dominating it. And then
Yeah,
I came in and all I needed was a fraction of what they were. And then really just understanding what services aren't they giving and how can I be able to give those services because if you're only two within the trade show industry is huge. If you're the only two payroll companies or the two giving, your customer service doesn't necessarily always have to be there because
mhm,
there's nobody else. And so when I stepped in, I was able to give that little bit of a different approach. It was a breath of fresh air for a lot of our clients.
yeah,
And I was able to succeed very quickly early on in that and had that for a few years until you're going to hear a lot of transition. My life
yeah.
has been a lot about of transitioning into the right place. So yeah.
And I like to think of that probably more even as evolution,
Yeah.
right? Because you're taking the lessons and the things that you've done into that
Mhm.
next phase.
Yeah.
You mentioned fulfilling, right? Oftentimes people get into a category or a business because they're like, oh, I want that money. It's good money. But my optics always been if it's just about the money, you won't keep doing it.
100, or when you hit that, and that's what happened with me. When you hit that, then what? And you
Yeah,
still have when you can and whatever success means to you. But I was private jets, yachts, traveling the world, had my business. It was a second business, had my business at that time operating. I wasn't working in my business. I was figuring it out. And this is pre-mentorships. And I really just sat back and I said, okay, and now what? And I remember this very distinctively. And I was laying in bed with my dog, and I said, okay, I have all the money in the world that I need for me and what I feel is success, but there's still something missing. And I had to really search. And it was during COVID. I think a lot of people were able to have that quietness because we were forced to. We were
yeah,
forced to live and still and understand and start to get really by, understanding who we are. At least that's what I felt because you couldn't go outside. We just recently had a little bit of a storm here or a winter storm in Texas, and everybody's freaking out because it's only one day that they can't go outside. And I'm like, do you guys not remember? We couldn't go for months. And so that's when I said, you know what? There's something more out there, and there's something more that is fulfilling, and I have to figure out what that is. And once you do, and you really do that, you'd be so surprised how you want to really work and be in that, and it doesn't feel like work. It feels like the mission that your purpose is. We just came back from, it's been already almost 2.5 weeks from our retreat
yeah,
together, and we have been nonstop. But it's
yeah.
because we're wanting to have that mission and fulfill that mission. And so it doesn't feel always like, oh gosh, I have to just clock in. It is more, this is what I'm, what our purpose is. So
You mentioned mentorships too, prior to mentorship.
yeah.
So when did you decide mentorship had value, and what have you found that it has brought you?
Yeah. So for the first 5 years, so as I said, evolved, transition out of staffing. I had an opportunity that came to me, and it was over just having coffee with a friend of mine, and he says, we have a big problem. I work for a huge investor hedge fund. They're acquiring 300 properties in the South Florida area a month, and we can't get it fulfilled. Like we get our subcontractors involved, and we're giving them so many houses, but they're not getting them done in a time frame. Well, I came from staffing. I said, well, what if I get 5 homes, and then I can staff each one, and I didn't know they were building a crew by that time, but
Yeah.
build a crew for each one, and then I can just have it as an assembly line, and then we can move to the next one and move to the next one. And so that was my entry into real estate. And that is when I started. I said, I think I've always wanted to do real estate, but I just don't know how. Well, let me start on the general contracting side. At least I'll know what it takes in order to build a home or to renovate it and however. So, being in that, I had to learn how to do payroll. I had to learn how to and I had already known how to do payroll of third party, but not internally. I had to learn how to run a construction company. And I always felt, Tanya, that I was just always alone. At that time, I was in my early 20s, and friends, and we're in Miami. Friends are out partying, friends are out going and doing things. Michelle's worrying about, when is payroll am I going to be able to hit payroll? And am I going to need to go get a short-term loan in order to get this done, because I'm waiting for an invoice and to get paid? And so I was co-sharing a space, office space, and I didn't even know, this is how crazy this whole the way things are. It was a wholesaler, and so
Oh,
he had a wholesaler operation. I didn't know what they were doing. And so at that point he says, let's, you know what, I want to take you out to, Las Vegas. Let's go. And I want to, it's a surprise. And I'm like, oh, we're going to go to Las Vegas. We're going to have so much fun. And, us women, we have different outfits. And so
yeah.
these were outfits to go out and party and do the fun stuff. We get there, we're there for a conference. And
Oh,
so I literally had to go on the strip to go get, I think, Ross or TJ Maxx or something
right.
at the time, go get outfits, because we're not even staying on the strip. We're at a conference to go to learn. That was my entry to into mentorship.
Yeah.
So I remember that was Make Money Matter. That was Thrive. Cole Hatter
Mhm.
was the one that over spearheaded that. And I got to meet, or not meet, but they were talking. Ed Milet was on that stage. You had, there was just so many different ones that were, and I was like, wow. So at every conference, there is at the end, they say, okay, join our mastermind. The
Yeah.
mastermind was $10,000, and I did not have $10,000. And I knew that this would be an opportunity to be in the room with people that I never even thought. What I felt was a sense of relief. There are people around here that actually get it, of what I'm doing, and I just don't know. Like, I never thought that there were people like this before.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't pay for it, right? I could not pay for it, but I made it my mission that the next following year that I was going to do whatever I needed to do to be able to get into that membership. Well, this is pre-COVID, then COVID hit. And when it happened, they were still running it. Everything was virtual. I was able to have myself and gift one other entry in, because that's how much I believed in it and how much I put my mind to it, that I knew it was something I needed.
Yeah.
Mentorship has changed my life, right? And I've been in multiple different ones. I think one of the things is, once you get a taste of it, then there's that. I don't know if you've ever been through this. Then you kind of start joining a lot of them, and then you realize you need to scale back, because now
Yeah.
you're not doing any justice for yourself. You're just spending money, because you can't focus if you're getting mentored by 3 different people.
Right.
And so we've had to, really pull that back and say, okay, let's put an audit. Is this group still serving the purpose of what we need for the season we're in? And or are we signing up for too much? Because I think sometimes we all sign up sometimes for too many things.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That falls in that shiny object syndrome a little bit too, right? And
Mhm.
what's curious about what you had said, it wasn't that you probably didn't have 10,000 available to you, but you had to prioritize it, right? You were, as a
100%.
business owner, the payroll, the business expenses had to come ahead of sort of you being able to plug into a room. That probably was the first time that you were around people, like-minded people like that too, right?
Yeah.
Just from a standpoint of, because you mentioned in your corporate life and wanting to make that transition, you didn't have any support around you. Like, so your inner circle didn't
Yep.
get it. So you were having to do it as a silo.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you get into a group of people that have the same mindset, doing the same sort of things, or have done the things you want to still do that you hadn't done yet, right? How
Mm-hmm.
did that have impact on your results?
Mindset is a mindset shift. Like you said, when I first sat there, I said, I can't afford this. Who am I
Yeah.
paying $10,000 to? I don't even know if I have that. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then it's not, I can't afford it. It's how can I afford it? Right.
Yeah.
And so having that mindset shift and then knowing like, wow, when you're in those type of rooms and you're with people that are elevating you, it is not about competition. It's about collaboration. It's about, oh, wow, like this is where you're at. I was there 6 months ago, a year. You realize those people, and we're the same, right? And because now we're in these rooms, we want to help people get there. And I'm like, hey, learn from my mistakes of what I've done and let me help you and just give you just some advice. I was on a call earlier today, same thing. I said, if you just did these little things and tweak this just a little bit, I promise you, because your message is amazing, what you're doing is amazing. It will help you in this fundraising, that you're doing. And um, able to receive that feedback is also the biggest thing. I
Oh
think
yeah.
so, I think sometimes, and now being a part of these communities and been doing it for a little bit, you have to be vulnerable. I think when we are building, we don't want to tell people the mistakes that we've made. We want to make sure that it's all perfect and it sounds like everything is amazing. When in reality, entrepreneurship, there is nothing perfect about it. It is all the imperfection and the imperfectness that gets you to figure out what does that look like and continue to moving forward. um, you know there's something that's recently what Pace has been saying is, new levels, new devils.
Oh yeah.
And it's true. And it's like everyone has, once they're hitting certain ceilings, you're going to go into a new type of problem that you've never had to deal with or not ever had to work with or never had to have to figure it out. For me, in the weird way, that's the fun part, right? It's scary.
Yeah.
I have an amazing fiance that is like there to support, because I can still, as strong, independent woman as I am, I still sometimes have that imposter syndrome, or I don't want to ask for help, or I'm like scared or fearful of these new things. I think for many years, fear of success is what sabotaged my world.
Yeah.
Self-sabotaging is a big thing. You feel that you don't deserve it, but all of us deserve anything that we work for, right?
Yeah.
And anything is given to us. So those are just, mentorship has just really changed. I love being in the rooms with like-minded people. I love learning about what other people are doing. And it could say that we say we're in the real estate world. There's so much in real estate. There is so many different things. And then it's just pretty cool to know that there's people with big initiatives like you. Like if and you're not doing it alone. And so that's what we're learning. I think the biggest thing is when you do get into these rooms, though, capitalize and be intentional, because just because you signed up and you just wrote the check doesn't mean you're going to get success. You
Yeah.
have to do the work. So,
Yeah, and didn't mean to get down a rabbit hole of mentorships, but it was so interesting because I am an NLP master practitioner. I'm an accredited
yeah.
coach. And it tends to attract people to have conversations with me that end up a lot around mindset and talking with people who made an investment. If you're going to invest to try to grow in a community, a mentorship, whatever, you can't look at it as what am I getting from it? You have to look at more of a what can I bring to it and contribute?
Mm-hmm.
That way people want to contribute to you, right? We have to be attractive even when
100.
we go in the rooms. So when people have told me, well, I haven't gotten my money's worth in general, doesn't matter what the room is. And I said, well, what did you bring to the room? Well, what do you mean? I paid the money. No, the money is just the entry, like to get you in. That's not
Correct.
right. So then it becomes a secondary piece of that, which is their relationship with money, right? Because the way they're looking at money as money rather than a tool
Correct.
in order to grow themselves and to get their time back or scale their businesses. Okay, let me get back on track. So I want to make sure that we get to really share your journey too.
Yeah.
I told you, one, this is live, and two, it just goes wherever it's going to go.
I love it.
Let's see. And that's so funny. That is going to be the next question. Was there a moment where your relationship with money or
Mm.
success fundamentally changed? And if so, what caused the shift?
Yeah. So it is the weirdest thing because in my household or in our house, in my upbringing, money was always, and I think for many, and many can relate to this, it's always been shameful. It
Mm,
is, you don't talk about money. We don't bring that up. It is, mom used to say those things of money doesn't grow on trees. Make sure that save every dollar. This is what it is. And the scarcity mindset versus the abundance. The weirdest part, Tanya, is I've always had a good relationship with money and I didn't realize that. And I say that because I've never thought of something that I couldn't achieve. Now, I
yeah.
didn't know how I was going to get there, but I've never thought of, lack thereof. I always see that there's opportunities. Now, don't get me wrong. Has there been some scare moments and has there been some, oh my gosh, I don't know, in years of, I don't know how I'm going to get through this year. How did I get through this year?
Yeah.
100%. But I always say when there's that little bit of hope and the light at the end of the tunnel, like you mentioned, as long as you're pouring in and you're serving and you're bringing value and things will start to evolve. And so for me, that has never been a big thing. However, it has always been one of those things for me to not talk about. So I
Mm,
believed that there's plenty of it, but I never vocalized or talked about it.
yeah.
And so we're not talking about it is not asking for it. And so when I started my real estate journey and at the level that we were purchasing, mom and I were the ones that started together. I purchased 19 properties our first year. Um,
That's
yes. And so fiance came involved at that time and he's been in the game for 20 something years. He told me you're going to run out of money. Again, back to mindset. I'm a Latina. I cannot ask people for money. I don't want to borrow money. I don't want any of that because I don't want someone on me and me being able to feel like I owe them something. So
yeah.
that is still a problem with relationship of money. And then at a certain point, I had to have that mindset shift because I got to the point I ran out of money. And
Yeah.
I had someone as a mentor that says, Michelle, you're not borrowing money. You're providing someone an opportunity to be able to work with you and grow with you and what you're doing. And that goes into our real estate and our mission and impact driven type of real estate that we do. You're giving someone an opportunity to bet on you. And if they're not going to bet on you, they're going to bet on someone else and may be able to not treat their money as good as you do. And then that is how capital raising became and evolved outside of that. And
Yeah.
now I'm just in love with it. And it's, and just teaching people how to become part of certain things and projects. And money is a big component. We talk about money all the time now. So that's kind of our thing.
And then you've attracted so much more of it because of it. You
Yeah.
know, recently when we were in Miami, I'm going to brag on you for a second.
Yeah.
You've with your Amigos Club, you have been very in your Amigos Fund. You've been really intentional to try to help people get into investing because the general from the time we go into school, right? If you go to a public school system, you and I both live in Texas. School system is designed to make you an employee.
100%.
They don't teach you about money. They don't teach you about entrepreneurship. They don't teach you about credit, right? They leave those things on parents, which, oh, by the way, both have to work full-time jobs, so barely get to see their kids, right?
Mhm.
Maybe a hug and kiss in the morning and dinner at night. Um, you've managed to bring, and I don't know the number, but you were recognized for how much you've been able to contribute in helping these people get into investing that otherwise, right? They're taught to just go to work, put a 401k together, hope that you have enough to retire on. And if not, then we'll give you a little bit in Social Security.
100%.
As you look at the number of people you've been blessed to help bring into real estate investing that hadn't before, what's the count?
144 people are now part of Amigos. So
Wow.
and that's within 7 months.
Yeah.
So prior to that, the reason of that journey started with my mom. So I came back to San Antonio to build a legacy with my mom. And I think one of the biggest things I said is, Mom, look, I've been an entrepreneur for a while. You've been a W-2 employee, but now we're going to be partners. There's one thing, there's a non-negotiable.
Mm.
We have to focus on impact and not the dollar amount. We have to focus on we're giving back to the community. And what does that look like? I don't know yet, but this is kind of my vision. She's like, well, I raised you well. Like, I raised you well. So mom and I started really with midterm rentals, and midterm rentals with displaced families that have a fire or flood. Military, San Antonio is a military city. So when people come down and they can have a furnished rental, we've worked with contractors and construction workers. And so that was our biggest thing. Well, mom needed to bring, partnerships. You bring money to the table. Love my mom, but we are business partners at that point, right? And so when she did, I looked at her 401k. And at her 401k, she was at a point, she was at 250,000. They saw that she was getting a little bit older and getting out of retirement. When she left, or when she was getting into retirement, when she left with $90,000. So mom's supposed to survive off of $90,000 Social Security.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? This is not right. So I became, Tanya, in love with figuring out the leverage and of how to find money and how to leverage money and how does money work, right? And so we were able to 8x her portfolio, her retirement within 18 months. Full disclosure, I tell people that it is also with real estate. So it wasn't just monetary, her in doing it, but it was with real estate as well. And I wanted to set mom up so that she can feel like, okay, great. Like I have something now. And at least it's a little bit of a little bit of a nest egg for my retirement. So she has been gone back to W-2 because entrepreneurship was not for her. But she was actually hanging out with us last week when Pace was around here locally. And she was just like, I can't believe what you've done in 4 years or going on 5 years. I can't believe what has happened and how this has evolved. Like, wow. And so the reason why she says that is because now we're getting into aged out foster youth, veterans, again, impact driven.
Yeah.
So mom was the first PML, private money lender. And I said, how many more do we have that are like this? And so when I started in this journey of, okay, I want to get to really, in the money side of things, and I want to become a capital raiser. The first thing you think about, and you know this about coaching, and we've talked about this before, it's, let me coach people how to capital raise. How do you go and fundraise, go find the money? What I realized that the biggest need it was how to protect your money. And what about the people that are not accredited investors, meaning that they don't have a certain type of net worth yet? Why can't they participate in real estate and building their retirement? So I always say we work with Main Street private money lenders. We work with individuals that maybe only have 30K, 40K, 50K in their 401k or in their savings, and they want to multiply that. And so it's just all evolved last year in the sense of now we have 144 individuals. Prior to that, Vin and I have been able to impact 235 lives just by him and I. Now that we've created the Amigos Investment Club, now that we are building a bigger mission that's outside of just Vin and I building, and now we are working with community and we are now impacting so many lives. Our goal is 10,000 lives within 5 years. And that is and think about this, Tanya, if we're bringing in someone that comes in an Amigos and they're working with us, we are now having, we have our third club that just closed. We have 2 teenagers in there because a mom has been investing with us. So now the 2 teenagers are learning how to invest their whole life policy with us. So this is the thing and movement that we're doing. You get to earn and learn. You get to feel like you're at a seat at the table of knowing how to multiply your money, which they don't teach us in school. They don't tell us how to make that work. And you can really, truly start to build that and still have a W-2. But being able to compound that versus just relying on what they've given us as for the government, which is a whole nother thing in itself.
Yeah. Well, and somebody kind of came in midstream. I know how Paceway says about that and says, "What's this about or what's this for?" So just to clarify for that person, I don't think I'm thinking the name is JoJo. This is about people who've done things. Michelle has managed to build an incredible portfolio as well as serve her community in a way that you said 235 lives, I think it was, but
Yeah,
I didn't know.
235 families in 4 years we were able to do with just our portfolio. So they've stayed with us. They've lived in our properties for a temporary time.
Yeah,
So that was our number. We haven't calculated it for 2025 yet, but that was just off of ours. Now
yeah,
we're growing that. And how are we growing that? Now we have the Amigos. The Amigos and us we put our money together. Now we're loaning that to others. We've loaned on co-living,
mhm,
which is affordable housing. We have loaned on a sober living. We have an amazing project that we are going to start to launch this month. And it's 24 townhomes in the San Antonio, Texas area that is going to be for aged out foster youth and veterans. And if your audience doesn't know, and I'm just a big like passionate about this because I didn't know this up to a year and a half ago. After you're in the foster system at 18 years old, you actually you get kicked out of the program, and you have to just figure it out. They either
mm,
go homeless, human trafficking, and all of that. There are other programs out there that are there to take in this aged out foster youth from 18 to 24. Their biggest need is housing. And so we are making it our mission to be able to provide that housing for them, to give them, an opportunity to really understand, to be able to not be in the streets and all of that. Veterans, that is a huge thing. Our veterans, they go and serve our country, and then they don't use their benefits. They don't have, so that's another initiative we have. And then independent senior living is also one. But those are the two that we're really focusing on. But these are the kind of things that we do.
yeah,
This is what you can make your money matter. And you can also basically, if you're part of the Amigos, what it is not only are you doing these impact, you're also making an ROI on your money, right? You're also becoming the bank and you're lending, which I know Tanya, much, you know about that as well, as far as lending your money and becoming the bank. So we do this with a lot of just Main Street, normal individuals that thought they could never have a chance in real estate investing.
yeah. And we talked about that a little bit offline. I mean, Vince and I, we do private money lending for a group that do that very same thing up in the Detroit, Michigan area,
Yeah,
right? They're buying housing, renovating it for children aging out of the foster care system, right? To give them a good platform. And because of that, of course, we also don't charge as much of a rate because it's
correct.
just part of how we're also able to serve others. The You mentioned you didn't know about it till about 18 months ago. How did it hit your radar about 18 months ago?
Yeah, so Vin and I, it's so funny, Vin. Vin and I, we were at a San Antonio Apartment Association event. And we saw the booth and what they were, whatever that event, the proceeds were going to that particular nonprofit. So
Yeah,
we went over there and we're like, well, what is this nonprofit? It said age out foster youth, but what does that mean? And that's when we found out. I'm like, what? At 18 now they're just homeless? This is crazy. And so that's how we started to really figure out how can we make this, like, how can we be a part of it other than just donations? And so we've done a lot of like searching, and there's a lot of work still to be done at a local level. We're really going out at, nonprofits and letting them know that we're here. A lot of them are like, and we're just trying to figure out how to bridge that gap, because a lot of them are like, oh yes, we need it, we just didn't know you guys were around. We assumed real estate investors didn't want to be involved in things like this.
wow.
And it's just the uneducated. I think a lot of time we're just not educated, right, in certain things, and that's why it scares people. So yes, so that's how we found out. And then it's just like anything. When you're around those people, or when you know what your need is, or when you start to really say, okay, this is, God, is this what you have me here for?
Yeah,
The doors just start opening. And that's what happened. And we are able to be part of a development, that Vin and I didn't know we were going to start doing development of projects. Like, we're thinking we buy single family, we do renovations. This is a 24 unit. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And these individuals, how we got across is they said, hey, we just been developing and selling these off to investors or selling them. We want to be part of something impact. I think we want to do residential assisted living. And I'm like, I've been down that road. Let me tell you what those are. Have you ever thought about this? And, that partnership, we're just so much aligned in the sense of we want to give back to the community. We want
Yeah.
to be for purpose. And that's how we've been able to get involved. Again, circling back to what we said, who are you around? Community, being able to know like people that are like-minded individuals. And so we are all in our own little space of doing, the contractor, he's a long developer. He has the experience. It's amazing because it's very solution based. Yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, literally yesterday, I was like, we may have to kill this deal because the numbers aren't making sense. Is there a way we can squeeze one more bedroom and this would make sense and that it doesn't look overbuilt or doesn't look like we're sardines? Like, we still want it to look nice because
Yeah.
like you mentioned, Tanya, our end goal is we purchase these, we get to have these, or not purchase, we build these, we get to utilize these. And who knows, maybe we owner finance these to these individuals and it could be their first home.
Well, and you're giving them a safe space. I mean, the foster care system, that so many of them, they end up in human trafficking because they've also been abused,
Yeah.
right? And you're giving them a safe place and a community
Yeah.
where they can grow together. That's so great. I love that. Now, what do most people misunderstand about trust when it comes to money and partnerships?
Mm. Yeah. Money and partnerships. And I think the trust is depends on what rooms you're in, but I think sometimes we all, if we get excited, so we've been kind of on this, okay, now you found the community, now you said you found the mentorship or you found the group or however. Um, One of the things is you have to be able to trust yourself before you can start going into partnerships with others. When you get around this energy, it's like, oh my God, I want to partner with Tanya. I want to partner with them. I want to partner with them. And you start to lose your non-negotiables and you need to know what you trust for yourself. So I
Mm,
say this because everybody wants to partner, right?
right.
Once you get out of, I think there's stages in entrepreneurship. You want to do everything by yourself and you think that you can do it better than anybody else. And then you break to another level of, I don't want to do everything by myself. Let me start hiring employees. Then you break to the abundance level of, I want partnerships because I don't want to always be the leader. I need other people at the table so we can start to scale because you can
Yeah.
only do so much on your own. And so Vin and I are at that scalability, like everything now is partnerships forward. So then when we think, okay, we want to partner, we had to have a step back and say, okay, we need to be able to know what our non-negotiables are. And we have to know if it aligns with our current mission and what season we're in. And it's not that those individuals are bad people. It is not that they are not doing right or any of that. It's just that we're not in the current frequency or in the same stage in whatever we're
Right.
building.
Right.
So you have to trust yourself first. And then from there, the partnership, I always say you have to have the ugly story conversations first. You have to
Yeah.
have the divorce conversations first before you can actually get into the dating and marriage. Truth be told, a lot of people will may say something on this, but Vin and I, we still run ours very separate in partnerships. What do I mean by that? When we buy a property, Vin has his holding company, I have my holding company. When we
Yeah.
have children, I guess my children are going to be a little bit more well. No, I'm just kidding. But we do this. We do this because I love him. We see our future together, but life happens.
Yeah.
Maybe seasons happen. Maybe we fall out of love. Then that whole ugly story of everything we're building right now doesn't get ugly. And we do that with partnerships too. So
Mhm.
I think we've learned to let's have those uncomfortable conversations now versus the other. And then the money, right? for us, we have to make sure that that's the byproduct of what we're doing versus the only thing that we have. And I say that because, like, on this current project, it is not going to make us where we retire tomorrow. In fact, it is going to be that there is a lot of streamline, and there's very small room for error. But that's not what we're here for, Tanya, on this deal. And that is the thing that they said. We've pushed back, and all of us have said, okay, maybe we should just not do this. Okay, maybe we shouldn't, because they have a second type of exit. They can sell the properties. They can,
Right.
and it would be a nice exit, and however, but that's not what we're here for. We all have to, and it was a reminder, we all had to say, okay, what was the purpose of this partnership? What was the purpose of what we said? We want to build affordable housing for this. So we're not here for that whole money side. Now, that is the way we've been able to figure it out. You know, we don't drive off of the money side of it. It's just the byproduct. Now, some people can say, well, Michelle, we need money. We need to pay my bills. Like, how can I'm not there yet. I don't even know, like, money, money, money. When you're only focused on the money, that's when you'll be the most broke. I'll be honest.
Oh, no, it's true. Well, and I think one of the safety nets is, if you think back to the 50s, neither of us were born then, but coming out, right, it used to be in a household, you had one income, right? A one income household, one parent stayed home, took care of the children, if you will, in a traditional format. But then coming out of World War II, it became two income households, right? Because of inflation and cost of living. Something I've noticed, be curious your thoughts on it, over the last, I don't want to say close to 10 years. What I've noticed is it's not just a two income household anymore, it's multiple streams of income from the two income providers in the household,
Yep.
right? And that's how you're able to not make money such a worry,
Yep.
right? Because if if you have different levers, you have different streams of income. So as an example, Vince and I do real estate investing. That's one, right? He has a career. That's another. I have a coaching business. That's another,
Correct.
right? We're looking at doing fix and flip as another real estate investment. So that's four on its own. So I think one thing to clarify for people who don't recognize or have never had more than one stream of income is, one of the ways you can do that and not be concerned about it is because you have other streams,
Correct.
right? So as an example, I just gave some more examples. What are some of the examples for you all? So you all
Yeah.
have this project. It is definitely impact driven first and foremost. It's not necessarily going to be a moneymaker, but it's going to serve others, which is
Correct.
what we're on this planet to do.
So
What are
yeah.
some of the other things that you all have?
So I always talk about today money,
Yeah.
and then the forever money, or the long-term money. And so a lot of what we have to learn about is, what is our active income today? And
Yeah.
so that could be W-2, right? Or my active income is today, but what we used to say back in the day, put money away for a rainy day. Do not put money away. Actually go and reinvest it, because of inflation right now. You will never keep up if it sits in a money market account, or if it sits in a bank. It's just not going to make it work. So our active income right now is actually our lending business. So we actually lend money out. That's what Amigos is for. And we're going into short-term projects. Now, after our active income, we do have a portfolio right now that we do rentals. So we have the rentals. So that's our second income.
Yeah.
Then our third income, which is the building run, right? Save forever. However, so for that, or have that saved for later, for that, when individuals come to us for the loans, some partnerships come to us. And so we're able to say, you know what? I like that, Tanya. Have you ever thought about having us come in as a capital partner and not a temporary just lending arm?
Right.
Those are how those conversations start to happen. And that is exactly what we've been able to build. So we have those three revenue streams. I have a coaching program as well. We have things that, what is called evergreen, like if different things that you can have where you can sell online. So we have about 5 different income streams. The main 3 are the ones that I just talked about: real estate, and then building out the portfolio. And then our active income is the lending business. So yes. So, and the lending business is new. So a lot of people may say, oh, you guys have had this forever. That is 7 months strong.
Yeah.
It is, one of the things that Ben and I had to do is in 2024 figure out what no longer aligned with us. We felt that we just kept going through the same thing over and over. And at certain points, it's like, okay, I'm comfortable. Now
Yeah.
I need to get a little bit more uncomfortable because we're still not there. So we check in with ourselves. And one of the things I tell in people that are just starting out, it is okay to change your whatever it is that you're looking at. Maybe you're not fulfilled with it. I hear people when they get into real estate, they think they need to be a real estate agent or need to be a wholesaler. I was
Yeah.
neither of those, and I'm in real estate. So you
Yes.
just have to really know. Now, I don't tell people to give up so easily. Don't say, oh, I gave it a 30-day try. No, really give it an intentional 90-day to 6 months. And if you truly don't like it, then don't. The other thing I always tell people, don't leave your W-2 so fast. I think if
Thank
people
you.
have the misconception, I leave my W-2, now I'm an entrepreneur. And if you're leaving because you want more time, because you think that you're going, because you want financial or you want to be free, entrepreneurship is not freedom the first 10 years. It is
Yeah.
not. You're building to get to freedom,
Hmm.
right? You're building something that you can keep within your family as a legacy.
Yeah.
And you're no longer having to go work for someone else that you can get replaced. However, you do have to understand you are putting in more hours. I mean, we still, because we just started the one business of lending, it's only 7 months strong. We're set 60 hours a work week right now.
Yeah.
And it's okay because we know what we're building for, and it eventually starts to go down. But I tell a lot of people have a misconception, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to go and get rich and I'm going to work a 4-hour work week. It doesn't work like that at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. No, as I was building mine with Vince and I, it was probably close to 10 years, right? I had a corporate career. I did the corporate thing for a very long time and very grateful, right? Learned a lot about what I help others with today from that journey. But you had to do it, I had to do it side by side,
Yeah.
which, right, when we say more hours, when I retired the corporate career, I thought somehow I was going to get this time back. And I know Vince is watching, he's probably laughing out loud. No, it's more time, right? It's more time. I probably spent the first freaking 3 months just trying to get my feet back under me, right? Because I had such a rhythm in my corporate life that it was kind of almost became easy to run them side by side. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm getting all this time back and all this travel, and I'm going to put it over here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, it's definitely not. It's not easier. Are you more in control? Yeah, you're more in control, right? You control your
Yeah.
decisions. But I just see so many people do that. They're like, "Oh, I wanna leave my W-2," and then they don't have any active streams of income, and then they end up going back to a W-2 and feel like they failed. No, you just didn't start the right way.
And it's not even, like you said, it's not even failing. It's just you found out it wasn't for you. Mom did the same thing. Mom was
Yeah,
like, whoa, I'm like, real estate this is a lot. This is crazy. I was looking for retirement. Let me go back to W-2,
yeah,
which she likes. She works from home. I love my mom. But she wants to go to those Spurs games and she wants to make sure she can watch her Cowboys. She
yeah,
wants to make sure she can do that. And she's like, so mom, she's like, I've put in my years of work. Now, great. I was able to see this and now we were able to get her retirement on track, which is amazing. But no, mom's like, this is crazy. No. And so it's okay to say, let me go back because it wasn't for me.
yeah,
Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. You are going to have your wins, your fails, your doubts. You don't have that steady paycheck always coming in when you first start.
mhm,
And there's some people that are the one percenters that they may be able just to hit the ground running. But it takes a lot, and the craziest part is you make the decisions.
yeah,
Typically, when you're in corporate, you got to get it approved and final, right, sign off in order for you to do something. I'm thinking 15 years already in entrepreneurship. And I still sometimes is like, okay, it's in my brain, like, you got to get up. Or I sometimes catch myself between the hours of 8 to 6. If I wanted to go and just take a breather, which we have our own, schedule,
yeah,
I feel guilty. And I've learned how to say, don't feel guilty. Like, we've been working very hard. We're going to take an afternoon off on Friday. Could I say we're going to take it off and be where we're not working at all? No, but at least Maybe we'll go to the gun range and be able to go there and probably talk about work or meet people as private money lenders, but it's a little bit of a fun activity.
Well, so you just made Vince jealous. Now I'm gonna have to hear about how long it's been since he's been to the gun range when he gets home.
Yeah, well, Vin too, because he has all. It's so funny. Every time I say we're gonna go, and it's been a couple of years, you'd see Vin it looks like a backpack. I have no idea. He has like the back, and it's like so long, and then he has all these other. I'm like, how many guns do you own? Like, you just became a Texan like 5 years ago.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. So he doesn't even know, but I'm thinking maybe this Friday we'll go and just do it for a couple of hours.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So for someone who's listening who feels capable but hesitant, what would you want them to reflect on before taking the next step? And let's say in real estate investing, right? We have a lot of we run into a lot of people who they want to get involved, they don't know how to get involved. So what would you want them to reflect on before getting involved?
Yeah. So it really just reflect on what your goals are, right? There's no right or wrong in knowing what that looks like for today. I think we all have been trained to say, what is that 5-year goal? What is your 10-year goal? And honestly, I would say, what is your today goal? What is that 1 year? Let's just do a little bit of sprints and just kind of look at it. You're looking at the marathon and you're looking at the huge number, and 10 years just kind of makes even me scared. I think Vin had it written on his board, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing the next 3 years. Can we just pull it like 10? Right. And so we've been conditioned for that. Like, you have to have, I mean, that was a interview question I had to ask sometimes. What is your 5-year goals? Honestly, that's not relevant today. Right. But what are you willing to put into something? And is this what you truly want? And maybe you don't know what that is. But one of the things I also say is, what do you think you're super good at? What is your superpower? People say, I come from corporate America, I don't have one. No, you do. You either are really good at, maybe you're in the accounting side of things. That means you're good with numbers. Maybe that correlates with underwriting. I'm a salesperson. Well, that means that you know how to build relationships. You kind of know how to solve problems. So understand what that looks like. And then if you are able to make an investment in yourself, start to see where those people are at. The community aspect, maybe get into a mentorship, maybe get into some workshops, maybe you just do a very small investment. Get around the people that are doing what you're wanting to do, because you will learn very quickly if it is for you. And what do I mean by that? Hey, I want to become a wholesaler. Okay, get around not every wholesaler. Get around successful wholesalers, right?
Yeah.
Get around them, talk to them. People that are succeeding are going to help you and tell you, what did I do wrong? What I did right? And if I could look back, this is what I would change. Those are the 3 questions you always want. Now, don't go to someone, and I'm just using wholesaler for example, but don't go to the Tanyas of the world and say, okay, I want to ask you all these questions. Come with some type of value first, and being able to provide some value. Figure out what that value is. That goes back to trusting yourself, trusting what you know, and then be able to lead with that. And you'd be surprised how many times, people will open up. I will always open up and say, okay, capital raising, this is what I've learned, this is this, and I'm still not at this. Or when I started real estate investing, this is what what I would have changed. This was what, and so figure what that looks like for you. And it doesn't have to be real estate. It can be anything. I want to start a coaching business. All right. Get around some successful coaches.
Right.
We can be very accessible to a lot of these individuals off of YouTube and so forth in regards to just learning all this. Right. We're looking to be in a partnership with laundromats, like within the next couple of weeks. Yesterday, I was just going in deep dive in YouTube. Why is it good to own a laundromat? Why should I own a laundromat? Why shouldn't I own a laundromat? And so those are the things you can do, really look into that. And then really build a plan. I mean, but I'm a planner. There are some visionaries that are like, hey, let's just have this is the big dream I want. And I want to be rich. I think everybody.
I don't feel seen. Oh.
Visuals are like, man, I just want to be rich. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Now what does rich mean to you? Because it doesn't always mean money.
Right.
I want to be
Absolutely.
rich in family. I want to be rich in, spiritual and faith. I want to
Yeah.
be rich, making sure. So you got to really just dial in within yourself and what that looks like before going out there and asking for help or looking for guidance, because
Yeah.
you have to know what's good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things to peel back what you had said, superpower is the hardest thing for people to know about themselves, because what is our superpower we think comes naturally to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So piggybacking on what you said, if you don't know what your superpower is, go to the people around you and say, hey, if you had to say what my superpower is, what is it? One, you're going to be really surprised, because
100%.
again, we think it comes second nature to us. But then two, that really does help you understand where you should be serving, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
given certain attributes and superpowers for a reason,
Yeah.
and we are all designed to serve others.
Yeah.
That would be what I want people to bring to me. When you said, if they come to me and they have a question, I want to know what their superpower is. And they probably won't know the answer. So therefore, go ask somebody who knows you well,
That's a good one. Yes.
then
Because
come have the conversation. Then we can point, like you said, they're good with numbers, underwriting, right?
yeah.
If they're great at relationships, well, there's a few different things,
Yeah.
right? Oh, it's so good. Michelle, if people want to reach you, your website's My Story Michelle with two L's, right?
Correct.
You can go at mystorymichelle.com. Any place else that they should look you up to connect?
Yeah, Instagram, all my handles on every platform, social platform out there is at My Story Michelle. That is with two L's.
Yeah.
Feel free to watch if you're looking to just be an entrepreneur, get into real estate, learn about impact driven things, or just to really just figure out what is your story. Right? I do talk a lot about that. There's always imperfect action that is taken,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. I know some of our media team is like, why do you just get on a live sometimes? And I'm like, because that's what people want to be relatable with. Not
Yeah.
everything is perfect.
Authenticity. That's why this podcast will always be live. It is not edited. My dogs did not bark this time. We'll take it.
Mine was scratching on the door and he got in.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Look forward to seeing you. Actually, I'll see you in the next couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.